Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays! Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Oh yeah, so welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. This is episode 413 of The Daily Dope. This is the first time you've swung in to catch the show. Keep in mind, this is very, very casual. I just pretty much share the latest tabletop gaming news of the day, get a little chat going with people watching live. Every once in a while, we'll talk a little pop culture, but the main focus is on gaming. Because this is live on YouTube, chat is available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat. So if you like to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, fire away. I will do my best to respond. Sometimes chat's flying by pretty quick, and I do miss a few things, but I do my best to stay on top of chat. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and if you do, don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you when the stream goes live, it'll also tell you when I upload my standalone videos, which include my first looks and unboxings and page throughs, as well as my reviews and interviews and convention coverage, and whoa, there's a lot going on. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, be sure to tell a friend. So we've got Dan from No Enemies here, the Madman, and also Beat Cafe are here in chat with me tonight. I do believe we are not going to see Flaming Huron tonight because they are off watching Star Wars. I believe so. And I think Kabuki Kid won't be around tomorrow because they will be off watching Star Wars. And it's possible I may not have a show on Friday because I would be watching Star Wars. Don't know. We'll talk a little bit about Rise of Skywalker towards the end of the show. But I'm going to jump right into the news. I've got a lot going on, a lot of good news stories as well to pop into. So first off, arriving this month from Space Cowboys is Kalis 1303. Here's the dope. Discover the latest version of Kalis, the famous board game initially released in 2005. Redeveloped by the original team, Kalis 1303 revisits and modernizes the mechanisms of its elder. A classic game is back. As one of the first worker placement games, Kalis stands among the true board game classics of the 2000s. The original designer's team, together with the Space Cowboys, have now created a revamped version. The mechanisms of Kalis 1303 have been streamlined and modernized for an intense and shorter game. Don't be fooled though, as the game has kept both its depth and ease of play, while a lot of new features have been added, such as variability of the starting position for a virtual infinity of possibilities, no more preset strategies, characters with special abilities with a wavering loyalty offer their services to the players, and of course, brand new graphics. The king calls you again, so it's time to go back to Kalis. Kalis 1303 is for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 90 minutes, will carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it arrives a little later this month. Nice! Okay, so I have a confession. I've never played Kalis. I know. Yes, I know. It is a classic. It is a true classic, and I've never played it. Never. I don't even really know what it's about, to be honest. outside of, yes, I know it's supposed to be like, 14th, 15th century, something like that. And it is a worker placement game. So, yes, I know. But people are thinking, never played Chaos, Jeff? Okay. Have you at least played Agricola? Yes, I have played Agricola. Don't worry. So Will Burton has popped into chat as well. Good to see you, Will. Thanks for popping in tonight. My next news piece is from Pandasaurus Games because next May, they're going to release the first flick and write game. Here's the dope on Sonora. Meet the first flick and write game. You've entered the Sonoran Desert, a place of vast beauty. Technicolor sunsets pop out over vistas, revealing deep canyons, trickling tributaries, and ancient Pueblo cliff dwellings. Immerse yourself in the secrets of the desert in this delectably fun flick and write game in which cunning and dexterity meet. In Sonora, players flick wooden discs onto a game board representative of the different vibrant landscapes across the Sonoran sands. Each area encompasses a different unique game, so skillful aim is required to play in the region of a player's choosing. But watch out for other players eager to bump discs. No, that's nothing dirty there. To bump discs to score points for themselves. Flick discs into the right quadrant to score points on your dry erase sheet. Game features stunning art and exciting player interaction and is a blast for both families and gamers. So says Pandasaurus Games. Sonora is for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 30 to 45 minutes. Will carry an MSRP of $29.95 when it arrives next May. Wish I had a few more images to share, but there are only a couple as of right now to share with you for this. This seems very different for Pandasaurus Games because mainly, I mean, their big game is Dinosaur Island. So for something that's a flick and write game, it's a little bit different. Kind of cool. I used to live in Arizona, and I used to go to the Sonora Desert quite often. It's pretty beautiful. Really, really different, especially with the red rock in that. It's pretty wild. Doug Roberts has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Doug. Welcome aboard tonight as we're settling into the news here. So let's talk a little bit about miniatures. I don't focus on miniatures enough. I would like to. I'd like to share miniatures live and in person. Don't have an opportunity too often to do that either. But Warlord Games has their second wave of Judge Dredd miniatures. They're now available for pre-order. I've got the dope on the major releases. There are some additional miniatures outside of these I'm going to talk about. First off, we've got Judge Anderson. One of Psi Division's greatest stars is Cassandra Anderson. She specializes in the fields of telepathy and precognition, where she has few peers. Born in 2080, Anderson is probably as far removed from Dredd's ideal of what a judge should be as can be imagined. She's an outspoken critic of many aspects of the Justice Department, displays her emotions, and has empathy for others. Particularly irritating to Dredd and the Justice Department's rather straight-laced leadership is her flippant, joking demeanor and ability to interact with other judges on an informal level. Despite all that, when the safety of Mega City 1 is threatened, she is uncompromising and prepared to use both lethal, psychic, and physical force against any threats. This aspect of Anderson is respected by Dredd, and they've teamed up on numerous occasions. So the Judge Anderson pack will carry an MSRP of $21. Then we've got the City Defense, or City Def. The rank-and-file City Def Trooper is a volunteer drawn from the block population who agrees to spend at least one day a month attending City Def training and orientation meetings. All are given basic training in squad tactics and care and maintenance of personal weapons. They are issued with a ballistic shell suit and assigned a weapon that must be returned to the armory at the end of any training event. However, such is the popularity of the City Def to certain war-crazy individuals that City Def captains can hold meetings on a weekly or even daily basis. Some even allow their enthusiastic followers to take their weapons home between sessions. An offense with a mandatory sentence of no less than 2 years per count, if the judges find out. The City Death team will carry an MSRP of $27. We also got the Cursed Earth Raiders. More radical muty factions dream of taking the megacities away from the norms and take everybody and every opportunity to raid the cities themselves, causing destruction and sowing terror. Due to the massive wall defenses of the megacities, an overland attack is nigh suicidal. Raiders who master the air have had the most success, suddenly sweeping over the wall defenses on a bewildering array of jetpacks, skyboards, and anti-grav transports. This set of minis will carry an MSRP of $33. I am also sharing the City Def Reinforcements pack, which is showing 3 miniatures. It carries an MSRP of $11, as well as the Mutant Sky Raiders, which do carry an MSRP of $33. These miniatures, as I mentioned, are available for pre-order right now from Warlord Games and will be released in mid-January. These minis look really nice, I have to say. I have not had an opportunity to take a look at the Judge Dredd miniatures game. Obviously, it's a skirmish game. But I have a soft spot for Judge Dredd. I like Judge Dredd, except for the Sylvester Stallone movie that sucked balls. But I am the law! Yeah, I've read a lot of Judge Dredd. Here's the funny thing I find with Judge Dredd. The comic books. I don't know if it's just me or maybe other folks out there as well, but I can read like a story arc and maybe some standalone stuff, and then I got to take a little bit of a break. I can't like binge read a bunch of Judge Dredd because it kind of the satirical aspect of the comic kind of wears thin after a while. So I have to take a little break. Maybe read a little Bloom County. Something like, read a little, Vertigo, A Why the Last Man or something like that to kind of break up the 20, or I should say it's 2000 AD comics. So we've got William McGinnis in chat too. Good to see you, William. So Will Burton says that they used to read the Judge Dredd comic in the UK back in the 70s. Yeah, Judge Dredd's been around for a long time. Personally, yep, 2000 AD is isn't 2000 AD still around? The way Will is mentioning it is, it's as if it's not around. I thought they still published 2000 AD. Here's something interesting for many comic fans out there, going off on a little sidetrack, right? In case you didn't know this, it used to be, at least in the 80s, I think it's still to a certain extent now as well. Back in the 80s, out in the UK, you had comic books that they would come out on a weekly basis. Or here we would have, like our Marvel comics, as an example, would come out every month. In the UK, they would actually break up those issues into like little bite-sized chunks and include them all in one comic that would go out every week. Pretty wild. I remember my brother used to get some of those. I was like, holy cow, there's like 8 pages of a Marvel comic in here, and then it's like, okay, to be continued. It's like, yeah, all right. So Will mentions that just took a peek, and they believe that 2000 AD is still being published. I think it is. And of course, there is still new Judge Dredd comics out there as well. Although I gotta say, my favorite artist with Judge Dredd was always Brian Bolland. Really, really liked Brian Bolland's work. That's why you almost always see when there's a Judge Dredd game of some sort, the art that they use on the box is almost always Brian Bolland art because it was that good. All right, let's move on into some role-playing game news because there is a new Vampire the Masquerade source book. Yes, 2 days in a row, we've got Vampire the Masquerade news. Anyway, this source book is up for crowdfunding on Kickstarter for the Onyx Path, or I should say Onyx Path Publishing. And I've got the dope on Cults of the Blood Gods. Dun dun dun. When you have already experienced death, why have faith? If you accept that you and everyone like you is cursed by God, why cling to his word? When you return from the other side as a blood-drinking monster, what purposes serves belief? Cults of the Blood Gods is a new style of sourcebook for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition that introduces the pernicious horror of twisted beliefs. Designed for players and storytellers, this supplement will include an in-character breakdown of the rise of esoteric beliefs among the ranks of the undead and how faith drives many of the major aspects of vampire culture. A host of religions, from historic theocracies and globe-spanning conspiracies to fringe cults and mortal beliefs arising in the modern nights. Introduced for incorporation into your character backgrounds or as supporting casts and antagonist groups in your chronicles. The history, structure, and ambitions of the Hecata, the vampire group known as the Clan of Death, as well as a chapter dedicated to playing a vampire among the necromancers and the ceremonies for their death-defying discipline, oblivion guidance on how to use ecclesiastical... Say that word 5 times fast. Guidance on how to use ecclesiastical horror and construct cults in Vampire, making them a vivid backdrop for your own stories, including new coterie styles focused on cult play. It's faith-based story hooks and a full chronicle centered on the activities of the Hecata, involving walking corpses, ghosts, ready-made characters, and the secrets of the most twisted family in the world of darkness. There are new lore sheets, backgrounds, and predator types for inclusion in your chronicles, encouraging player characters to engage fully with the material presented in this book. There is a quick Kickstarter video. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Let's kick back and take a look at Cults of the Blood Gods.
When you have already experienced death, why have faith? If you accept that you and everyone like you is cursed by God, why cling to his word? When you return from the other side as a blood-drinking monster, what purpose serves belief? Kindred build and are drawn to faiths for a myriad of reasons. The exertion of power over a flock, satisfying their hunger and their beasts, elevation of the self, reassurance of the possibility of redemption, a grand plan they forged or that was bestowed upon them by secret masters. While some vampire cults span the globe, hiding in plain sight, others are fringe faiths with morbid practices and ancient conspiracies lasting centuries. Others, such as the incestuous Clan of Death and the malignant Church of Set, arguably the largest vampire cults of all, believe in a destiny that will enable them to impose their wills on the world of the living and the dead. Whether for power, salvation, or transcendence, all kindred cults wallow in blood. They shed it in sacrifice, demand it of their followers, and exult in it, in unholy baptisms, proclaiming their divine glories. These cults, dedicated to blood gods, are among the most insidious, damning sects of kindred, and tonight they approach their apex of power. In all of Vampire the Masquerade's history, there has never been a book wholly dedicated to the diverse faiths and cults among kindred, the ways in which they practice, their relationships with each other, and how to utilize religion in your chronicles as a force of hope and destruction. Cults of the Blood Gods is the book you want if you're interested in incorporating ecclesiastical horror in your games. This book contains everything you need to have each kindred in your coterie establish a cult, cleave to a unique faith, and establish domains in the name of an ancient Methuselah, being of myth, or even the kindred protagonists themselves. Not only that, it provides the tools necessary to play members of the Clan of Death, once known as the Cappadocians, then the Giovanni, and now the Hecata, as well as new powers for members of a large number of cults, rules for creating your own religions, and an entire story set in Munich with ready-made characters so you can play immediately upon receipt of the book. Come, Join the only cult that matters, the cult of the Blood Gods.
Cults of the Blood Gods has already passed the 300% funding level for Onyx Path Publishing, and you can reserve a copy of the supplement in PDF for a $25 pledge, or in hardcover, which includes the PDF, for a $55 pledge through January 16th. Expected delivery for the PDF is October of next year, with the physical book to follow in April of 2021. Wow, that is way out there. So Dan from No Enemies here says vampirism is a Victorian excuse for repressed sexual repression of the repressed repression of sexual repression. So, yeah. A lot of people don't realize that Dracula was actually kind of almost like porn when it was released. I know. You know, it's kind of funny, especially with the Victorian approach to sexuality. And yes, Dan is correct. Pretty repressed, at least on the surface, right? You would think that we would not have reproduced, right? Anyhow, Kabuki Kid is in chat, and Nick Level Max is also in chat as well. Anyway, so I don't really have anything against Vampire the Masquerade. I remember reading the original books that when they came out, because White Wolf was actually out of Chicago. And I would pick up, I picked up the core book when it first came out. I picked up Chicago by Night, or the Chicago Source Book, whatever it was called. And I thought it was interesting, but I never ran it. And I don't know. I reviewed the 5th edition core book. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. And I would certainly not run it the way it was written. But I don't know. I don't know what... I know a lot of people dig the role-playing game. It's just... I have a hard time where all the characters, especially with the 5th edition, they're all fairly monstrous. It's not... I don't know. It's just me. Just kind of me. All right. Moving right along. Let's keep talking about horror role-playing, because Call of Cthulhu has now been released for Roll20. I've got a little bit of dope from Chaosium. Call of Cthulhu has officially arrived at the Roll20 virtual tabletop, beginning with the Keeper Rulebook. The Roll20 Keeper Rulebook features a full compendium with all book assets, including rules pages for presenting the mythos, combat chases, and investigator creation. Over 30 NPCs and monsters, rollable tables, macros, and pre-generated characters. There are 6 maps with GM layer and dynamic lighting support, which is for the Plus and Pro subscribers. There are stat blocks for mythos monsters, deities of the mythos, traditional horrors, and beasts, and over 100 spells and nearly 700 items. There are also 2 scenario modules, Amidst the Ancient Trees and Crimson Letters. The Keeper's Rulebook for Call of Cthulhu 7th Edition is available now for Roll20. It's available in the marketplace for $54.95. Also available for free are the Quick Start rules, containing everything you need to begin exploring the Cthulhu mythos, including an adventure with pre-generated characters and an introduction to the arcane lore of Call of Cthulhu. Interesting. I'm very surprised that Roll20 did not have Call of Cthulhu already, because I know Fantasy Grounds has had it for a long time. In fact, when I was sent Fantasy Grounds to possibly review, which I didn't because I could never get people together to actually play online, they gave me the Call of Cthulhu rules. Because they were like, well, we got a lot of people doing D&D, you got a lot of people doing Pathfinder. Could you maybe do CFC for us? And I was like, sure. And then I couldn't get anybody to actually get online to play so I could review it. But like I said, so I'm kind of surprised it's available for Roll20. I have to point out, I have never messed around with Roll20. I have played around with Fantasy Grounds, and it is pretty cool. One of the aspects of Roll20 that I'm not real keen on is the pricing, because their supplements are usually about like the actual price for a physical book, whereas I believe Fantasy Grounds is usually about half of that price. So Fantasy Grounds tends to be quite a bit lower priced than Roll20, but I know a lot of people use Roll20. So don't know. I have not played around with Roll20, so I really don't know much about it. I always understood that it was a little that Fantasy Grounds had more features than Roll20, but I could be wrong. So Dan from No Enemies here says that he loves vampire movies, and Christopher Lee is one of his preferred actors portraying Dracula. And he went to God status when he portrayed Saruman. Cool beans. Very nice. So you not count Doku? Is it Doku from the prequels? That didn't cement his God status for you, Dan? Had to be Lord of the Rings? I agree. I mean, I gotta be honest though, I have really not seen too many of the Hammer horror movies. I know, amazing, isn't it? I've seen all the classic Universal. But I think I've seen two Hammer films with Christopher Lee as Dracula and Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. Moving right along. Pelgrane Press, this is my final news piece, has released Hideous Creatures, a bestiary of the Cthulhu mythos in PDF. Yes, it is a double dip of Lovecraftian role-playing. Anyway, here's the dope on Hideous Creatures. Lovecraft created his various shadowy congeners because the stories of vampires, werewolves, and even ghosts had become too familiar and too formulaic to evoke true horror. Almost a century after he wrote, his own monstrous races have likewise begun to seem like comfortable story furniture rather than unnerving signals that the world is horrible and wrong. Well, I have to say, when I run my games called Cthulhu, they're pretty horrible, and the world is wrong. In Hideous Creatures, a bestiary of the Cthulhu mythos, we present a comprehensive look at Lovecraft's, you guessed it, Hideous Creatures, from as many angles as we can. Our goal is contradiction, surprise, and most especially the uncanny. The recognition of something familiar as something weird. As in the Gods and Titans section of the Trail of Cthulhu core book, this book deliberately contradicts itself, blurring boundaries and erasing certainties in the name of the uncanny. In your campaign, these variant truths might be misunderstandings, legends, heresies, or deliberate lies spread by the creatures to lull their foes into a false sense of familiarity. Hideous Creatures, a bestiary of the Cthulhu mythos, is a Trail of Cthulhu bestiary written by mythos giant Kenneth Haidt and fellow experts Gareth Ryder Hanrahan, Becky Anderson, Helen Gould, and Ruth Tillman in the tradition of the award-winning Book of Unremitting Horror and the 13th Age bestiary. Usable for any mythos or occult RPG, creatures are not just antagonists to fight or flee from. They are entire adventures by themselves, leaving physical traces, occult clues, and madness in their eldritch wake. The 360-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG. It carries an MSRP of $25. That is a sweet deal. 360 pages, 25 bones. I like that. I like when we see companies charge 10 cents or less a page for their PDFs. I think those are very fair prices. All right, so that is it for tonight's news. Anyway, as I always like to mention, when I talk about DriveThruRPG, the Gaming Gang, thus the Daily Dope, are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So, of course, if you are going to go to, let's say, DriveThruRPG, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our advertisement banners, and that way, if you do make a purchase at, say, Drive-Thru RPG, I get a little piece of that sale. Very little. Very little. But still, I appreciate so many people actually do use those banner ads from the Gaming Gang. Really, really helps out. Because on a monthly basis, those little dimes and nickels all add up and actually pay for the hosting for the Gaming Gang website. Pretty much 11 out of 12 months out of the year. So very, very cool. Really helps out. So Will Burton's curious. No Wargame Wednesday. I must protest. Well, Will, if there was Wargame news out there, I would have covered it. But there is nothing. There was one item that I saw. I thought, oh, hey, that looks interesting. And I went and took a peek at it, and the game is sold out. So I thought, well, I'm not going to share a news piece about that. You're like, yeah, this game is available, blah, 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 but it's sold out. So anyway, so if there was Wargame news out there, and I did look, I look every day to see if there's fresh Wargaming news out there, and very rarely, and I do not talk about Compass Games. So if they have news, it doesn't matter, because I do not share news from Compass Games. They have not been very kind to me, putting it lightly. Anyway, one last thing I was going to mention before I rock. So Wilburn's like, I'm just kidding. Oh yeah, I know. Trust me, I look for Wargaming news, because I know there are a few people out there. Kevin Thorpe is another Wargamer who pops in. Obviously enough, Dan from No Enemies here, also a Wargamer. I believe Kabuki Kid plays some Wargames here and there. So yes, we have a lot of Wargamers and role-playing game fans. So as far as board games, I don't usually feel too bad if I don't have tons of board gaming news, because even though I love board games, I love all games. I mean, come on. I think mainly it's Wargamers and role players who catch the show. Anyway, yes, Bill says he can tell by my shelf that I appreciate the genre. Yes, and I need to kind of move stuff around a little bit. This I'll do it after Christmas, after the New Year, because everything's been back there kind of the same for quite some time. Anyway, last item I was going to mention, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I do see that reviews are starting to come in for Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, and they're not overly positive. I think last I saw over on Rotten Tomato, it was running at 56%, which is certainly not going to make it fresh. So here's a question that I've got that I will end the show on. So the last movie, the critics really liked. I mean, I thought it was fine. I was not one of these people who walked out going, burn it all down, kill everybody. It wasn't me. I was like, yeah, it was all right. I liked it. It was cool. It was kind of stupid that they killed Luke off. Sort of like, yeah, okay, you just killed off Han Solo, now you're going to kill off Luke. And of course, we know Princess Leia's going to take a dirt nap. But anyway, so a lot of the critics liked it. In fact, I think it was like over 80%. Maybe that changed after a while, because there's some reviewers out there, and it doesn't matter what you review. There's some people out there, they're going to give like stuff a thumbs up just so they keep getting review stuff, or they're able to review things. Even if they don't like it, they go, oh yeah, it was great. And then they kind of change their tune as time goes by. But I have to say that I wonder if the critics are going to be like, and the fans are going to be more positive about it. I don't know. Because you see that a lot of times with geek culture movies, that, some of the critics really love it, and then the fans are a little, or the critics are kind of, and the fans are like, yeah, that was great, I loved it, that was awesome. So I'm kind of curious. I wonder. Probably there'll be a lot of people complaining. So that's probably how it's going to go. So tomorrow, if Fleming Huron joins us, I will ask thumbs up or thumbs down as far as what they thought. And of course, keep out, any spoilers. So Dan said, talk about payola. Yes, the old payola scandal from the 50s, right? Yeah, we'll play your music. Sure thing. I'll play that rock and roll. How about some money? Yeah, that's kind of game reviewers too these days. Yes. So anyway, what about The Mandalorian? I like The Mandalorian. I have to admit, episode 6 I thought was all right. Episode 5, I didn't think much of. I thought it was okay. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm turning this off. Because they're only a half hour long, 35 minutes long, whatever. I thought the one where he teams up with like the younger guy who wants to get into the Mercenaries Guild. So I'm going to try to stay non-spoilers for people who have yet to see that episode. I thought it just felt like recycled to me. It really did. And I saw what was happening. It was like they were telegraphing what was going to happen minutes ahead of time. I'm like, oh, obviously he's going to try to do this. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. And then last week's episode, I thought was better, but I still was kind of like, It was weird. It was almost like it was 2 episodes, right? Once again, trying to not do spoilers here. It seemed like first we had like a heist film, and then we had like a horror film. It's like, and I actually kind of like the horror film aspect of it better. But one thing I thought was interesting were all the cameos that was in that episode, because we had I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Richard, is it Ayoya or something like that? Who was from the IT Crowd. And then we had Clancy Brown, who I'm a big Clancy Brown fan. We had the actress who, now I don't know her name. Now I can't even remember the character's name. From Game of Thrones, the woman who kind of protected Bran through so many seasons of that, she was in it. And then the comedian Bill Burr was in it. I saw him, I was like, what? Wait, is that Bill Burr? And I'm like, it is. I was like, okay. So yeah, I thought it was okay. I have not watched today's episode, because I do believe that the latest episode came out today, so that it doesn't conflict with Star Wars opening, right? So, all right. So Will Burton says BGG Con Dallas looks good. May to go to Con Sim World next year. I used to go to Con Sim when I lived in Arizona. It was cool. I enjoyed it. Very, very laid back, but a lot of monster games and stuff. All right, well, it seems like Pinky's down here to tell me it's time to wrap up, I guess. Yeah, she was at the vet the other day, so I don't know. She's like all like snuffly and that. So we're actually using a nebulizer for her. Yes, hello, as she just strolls past me. It's like right past. She's made her noise, now she's gonna grab something to eat. All right, Pinky. All right, so that is it for tonight's show. As I always like to point out, if you like the video, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and if you do, don't forget, ring that little bell. Because not only will it notify you of when this stream goes live, it'll also tell you when I upload standalone videos, such as, I have to reach over and grab it off the table, my review of Elementos, which will be up tomorrow night. I finished shooting it, but I'm going to throw it all together tomorrow, so that'll be up tomorrow night after I do the show. Anyway, so also, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And everybody who hung out and chat, thank you very much for keeping me company once again. And regardless if you watch live or on Memorex, I really appreciate each and every one of you taking some time out to join me for the latest tabletop gaming news. Anywho, everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. I will be back tomorrow, and until then, happy trails! Zoobadoo-ba-doo-ba-doo-boo-boo. Zoobadoo-ba-doo-ba-doo-boo. Zabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-bum. Zibba. Whoa, hey. I didn't realize that you were still here. Well, if that's the case, then allow me to share the following information with you that I only have 20 seconds to do. So let's all take a deep breath. So, if you would like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, please click right here. If you want to check out the latest episode of The Daily Dope, click right here. And if you'd like to check out a randomly selected standalone video, by all means, click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thanks for watching.